All right. Sorry about this network issue today. See, as I was introducing myself, I take care of operations within Anamind, and as part of Anamind, we have different solution services and training program. Now, as part of solutions, we have hang on, yeah, we have various solutions with respect to demand planning, inventory planning, MRP, production planning, scheduling, financial planning, and business analytics. So all of these solutions are available with us. We are the official resellers of these solutions within India. I'll not get into the details because our session today is focused towards Forecast Pro Learning. Now, just to touch upon the service portfolio as well, we also offer our services as part of the outsourced service where we generate the forecast and we generate various reports with respect to inventory planning from our side and share back the results and help in driving the S&OP process. We also create a lot of analytics in Power BI. We have been automating a lot of reports there as well. As part of education, we also offer training program. We have live class section over the web and self-paced online courses as well, covering various topics. Now, since we are part of Focus Pro Learning series today, I'll briefly touch upon the company and the solution that we have. Focus Pro is from a company called as Business Forecast System. It was founded in 1986. It's one of the oldest solutions out there for demand planning and has various features and almost all the features with respect to planning. So it's quite an effective solution there and has worldwide implementations and worldwide user base. In terms of forecasting method, we have a forecasting method available within Focus Pro, starting from an expert selection along with various expert coding techniques, ARIMA method, the dynamic prediction. And last year, the ML model was also used within the system. Along with ML, we have various other methods and models available for various scenarios. And today, the topic that we will be covering is on custom allocation and integer rounding, which is primarily used low volume data. And let's quickly get into the details of custom allocation. Now, for custom allocation, I'll create a new project. Second, let me Forecast Pro application, new Forecast Pro application. And just to give a background of where exactly do we use Forecast Pro uh, for custom allocation, is typically where we have a lot of information available at directly at the higher level, but we really want to keep the products in a certain mix, and we want to ensure that products are ordered in that set or forecasted in that set. And I'm using a running shoe data, and I'll briefly show you the.
Assuming that everything is good and I can continue forward.
Yes, your voice is clear, Sheikh.
Okay, perfect. I don't know what issue I had in my system today. So, okay. So see, in certain companies, especially in apparel segment, what we have is we have a size curve. And this is an example which can be used in other industries as well. But specifically, if we talk about an apparel manufacturer or a footwear manufacturer, they have size sets, and companies needs to follow that size set. For example, while they when they would be ordering a certain product, or if the product is displayed in the retail store, the product need all the size sets should be available. It just so happens that there are certain size, for example in footwear, for especially for men, and I'm speaking this from the Indian segment perspective, the highest selling sizes are size 10, 11, 9, 10, 9 till 12 and the size 8 or 7 and the size beyond 12 are not really fast sellers. So that's where we have this size curve, but it's not that we do not have men with that size, for that size shoe. In the sense, if we are displaying certain product in a retail store, the smaller sizes or the extreme sizes needs to be available in the correct size set, though not really in the not really in a high volume, but they need to be still available, so that if a customer with that size set walks in, we have the product available to deliver to the customer. So in such cases, what we typically do is we can create a good forecast at a particular style level. So in this case, we have this as a style ID. We have this style ID, and then within the style, we have various sizes available. Now, this style or color could be a specific to a particular product category, or it could be just style that we can plan at. So typically when buying happens with in apparel and footwear industry, the buying happens in short, and people plan, okay, this style would work, this style would not work, and that's the reason the planning typically happens at the style color level, and then that gets broken down at the size level later on. Now over here, Forecast Pro allows you to define certain allocations rule for to be able to manage that. So I have read in the system the data for running shoe, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a custom allocation, and I'm just going to open this file as well, just to show you how it looks like. And let me just refresh this data. So this is done. Now, if you would look, so we have this particular style ID. Sorry, till here. We have 15 different size sets available, and then we are giving the allocation for each of the size. You can see for size 10, size 11, these are the faster seller size sets. So we have given higher allocation. Now, the total contribution of all the different sizes in this particular style that we have, it's 100%. So that's how the allocation can be specified, and we can say that if we have, like, if we want to buy 100 unit of a certain style, then we need to be buying 10 unit of this, 13 unit of this, and so on and so forth. So in system, what the system will do, system would take these allocations as we have showcased here, and we have an option in Forecast Pro to do a custom allocation at this level. Now what custom allocation would do, it will tell the system to forecast at the color style level, and use that forecasted values at the color style level to break it down at the size level based on the contribution that we had defined in the Excel file or the custom allocation file. So all I have to do is just click on custom allocation, and now you can see, if I would just remove the modifier here, initially my forecast is 196, 163, 176, 200, and so on and so forth. And for certain small size, there is absolutely zero forecast, right? Now, if I use custom allocation, system is going to first forecast at the style level, and the forecast would be much better because we are aggregating the data at a little higher level, and then we are giving certain percentage to the lower level in the contribution that we have specified. And since we want to ensure that at least there is some product or some unit available for even those extreme sizes, the volume is still not large, and the highest volume would still be at the size 10, 11, right? Now similarly, in other consumer good industry or any other industry, we can similarly plan at a higher level, and if there are multiple locations, then we can use certain custom allocation logic that, hey, for this location, or for it could be or for for one location we can have 30% contribution, for the other location we can have 40% contribution. So the patterns are not really great at the location level, but we have good patterns at the country SKU level. Then what we can do is we can aggregate the data at the SKU pan India level and use certain custom allocation logics to disaggregate that value to the bottom level as well. So there are various ways and methods that we can use, and this is one of the method for distributing the distributing the higher level forecast to the lower level item based on certain percentage. So some of the use case is something that I've told. Maybe in your industry, the use case might be slightly different. So you can use that as well. We will take the questions. I would just take a pause now and would like to see if anyone has any question. I see a hand raised from Chauhan.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So my question is, if we don't use this custom allocation, so based on the historicals, the allocation will automatically take place, right? And over and above, if you want to make a separate allocation,
That's
then
right.
this option is okay.
Yeah.
And if you can just go back to the Excel, just wanted to understand the data, as the format should be same all the time,
Yeah, for custom allocation, the format should be the same.
and from where we can get that format.
It's a pretty simple format. I'm just going to open the exact path. So and the file is opening. Yeah. So till here we have the product classification till the size level, and then the allocation percentage in the next column. The column header should be CALL. So that system understands that these are custom allocations.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question that anyone of you might have with respect to custom allocation?
Sheetal, it should be always be at the end level, or can we go one step above in the hierarchy to do the allocation?
You can go one step above in the hierarchy to do the allocation. Say, for example, you know that for this style, which is Mercury Cloud, you have some allocation specified. Then you can say specify it as null here,
Okay,
and I'm just changing it. So you can do
okay,
that, and system would assume that at Mercury Cloud we have to provide that allocation. So we can define that classification
I
here.
understand.
And in the same file itself, you can feed in the allocations at multiple levels as well, in case you would want to do that.
Okay,
What you have to ensure is that once you would go in the system, you have to use a custom allocation option, and this custom allocation option would only be visible to the area where we have the custom allocations fed in the system. So if I've selected black, because we have not fed in the system any allocation at the black level, it's displaying as blank. The button was not activated, but if I've selected a style, the custom allocation would pop up.
mhm.
So
But the
this,
way,
okay.
sorry, Sheetal, yeah, but the base forecasting is always how we selected, right? Like if expert selection is done, then the base forecasting is by expert selection only, right?
Yes, the forecast is based on expert selection only. We're
Okay,
just defining the level at which to forecast and how to break that forecast down to the bottom levels.
okay,
Yeah.
If you want to take allocation for two, for example, there are different colors, so I want to allocate in color category as well, and then I
Yeah.
want to further allocate in size category as well. So how does that work?
Yeah, as I was just mentioning, you can define it at multiple levels as well. You just have to make sure that the contribution remains 100%.
Okay, so here I can add another column on the right hand side of color and give the allocation.
I'm just going to take Mercury cloud. Now in Mercury cloud, we have black, brown, bone, brown, and white, right? What I will do is, for gender, I'm just going to take it for men's. We have black, brown, and white. So we have only these 4 colors. Right. So now I can define that for black, I want to give, say, 50%. For brown, I would want to give 25%. And for white, I want to give 25%. So I can define this percentage first at this level, and then at a bottom level as well in the same file.
And along with this, if I want to define for color and then for the size as well. So
Yeah.
in this you have defined it only at color level. So I want to give allocation at color level, and after that for the same category or same product, further at size level as well.
Yeah, you can do that. See, in this file, we have at the size level and at the color level.
So
We have it.
what I
Go ahead.
So what if I look at the Mercury colored cloud black? So based on this, the allocation is only happening at color level. So for the same product category, which is Mercury cloud and black, further there will be different sizes in black. So I want to do a further allocation in that.
Yes, so if you would see for black, we have these different styles, right?
Okay, so in separate column I can do that, and it will okay.
Correct.
Understood.
Yeah. All right. I'm just going to move to the next option, which was for integer rounding. Now, typically what happens that in certain situations, and specifically for low volume data set, and I'm going to use an AutoPart data for this. Yeah, it might take some time to load. It was already loaded in my previous system, but no worries. In the meantime, I'll just quickly explain you what this next option is for, which is integer rounding. Now, what happens that in certain um, that different use cases. The first use case is that there are certain products which are sold in very low volume. Say, maybe the sales is such that maybe once in 2 months we would get an order of just 1 unit of a certain product. And, now in that case, forecasting that exact time period when exactly the sales would happen, it's pretty difficult. And it could happen that system might forecast, but it might forecast in decimals, because it's a statistical forecast. It might showcase that my projection for the current month is 0.15. Now from the inventory planning perspective, I'm a little at a toss. I cannot plan for like half a unit or less than that. Now in such cases, we have an option of integer rounding. Now what does integer rounding do? It will ensure that for the next 12 period, if I'm forecasting for next 12 period, then it will ensure that it keeps on rounding for an item at a month level. Now for if say for example, my forecast is 0.15 for the current period, for the current month it is 0.15, for the next month it is 0.75, and for the third month it is 0.9. Now it will round in such a way that for first month it will give 0, but for the next month it will make it as 1, and then for the third month it will keep on adding that balance amount. It will take that balance amount to the next month to ensure that there is a full 1 unit of forecast which kind of appears. So we can define that as well in the system and ensure that the forecast actually happens in such a way that my integers are rounded. So now what is the difference between this and the minimum order quantity? The minimum order quantity would is something where we tell at a month level how much do we want to keep it in the inventory. When we say 1 unit is something that we have as minimum order quantity, but our forecast in itself is 0.15, then it's just going to make it as 0. And for next month also, it might either increase it or decrease it, or it might just say, one unit for each of the month. Essentially, my overall demand in such a way, if we use a minimum MOQ or something to specify my forecast or my order, I might be over projecting or over taking the inventory and not really, keeping it at a lower level. So this is one use case where we can define in the system for low volume product the rounding factors. The second use case is where we have certain MOQs defined, in the sense we want to ensure that the system forecast at least in 10,000 units. So now system is going to aggregate the data for certain products in such a way that my forecast remains in 10,000 and above units only, and it will keep on rounding it to 10,000 units. So in such cases where we have specific requirements, say I was working with one of the spare part company in India. It's a well-known spare part company for consumer goods like ACs, etc. Now they had, they need to have certain commitment that they forecast in such a way that the numbers are not really greater than a certain amount. The numbers has to be in multiple of say 1,000 or 100. So we want to essentially round the forecast to 10,000 or 1,000 unit to ensure that there is optimum capacities as well available, and we really want to round the forecast in such case. So it might still take some more time, unfortunately, in this system change. I'll have to run the projection again. So what I'm doing, let me show you this Excel file for how it basically looks like. I have definitions which are integer rounding quantity. I'm just opening that. Now over here, what we have done, that for certain products, we have specified that I need to be forecasting in 1,000 unit, or the forecast should be 1,000. It should be added up to 1,000. So below that, it will not take into account. Then we have 50, 2, 3, 5, 150. So I have different such factors for defined for each of the items. So this is what I'm feeding into the system, and I want the system to ensure that the forecast actually happens at in these multiples or above. Equal to all. Yep. So over here we have the data loaded. I hope you all can hear me still.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay. So we have, in this case, for example, we have updated the data of integer rounding quantity as well as my historical sales data. I've updated that. Now what the system is trying to do, if I would want to look at my I just want to go back to the okay, hang on. I just wanted to take one of the examples from there and just to show you how exactly the data, the forecast would look like. So let's take one SKU, and this is in Chicago North. Yeah, the first one, now I have my integer forecast and then I have normal statistical forecast. Now my statistical forecast is 300 units, roughly about 300 units at a month level, as you can see. But now since I've put in the system a factor of 1,000, so system is going to as per my integer statistical forecast, it is actually making the forecast as 0 for the month of June and July. And for the month of August, it is aggregating the data in such a way that by when we reach August, we are ensuring that we have a forecast of 1,000 units. So if I would just sum these three, my overall number is 1,016. So it has kept the forecast to 1,000, and the balance 16 unit it is going to use from September onward. And we can see over here we have a long way till the time we reach the next forecast of 1,000. Sorry, it kind of happens here itself because I have done a roundup, and then from here on it will take the balance amount. So for each of the item, that's how the system is going to ensure. Now over here it's at 50, so it's automatically rounding to 50 or 150, whatever that value would be, the nearest value or the multiple of it, depending on how my forecast is. So that's how we can actually define and ensure that instead of keeping like in decimals, keeping the forecast in decimal, we can ensure that the forecast is rounded up to a certain value. What we can define in the system is we can define that instead of using the statistical forecast, my baseline forecast should be not my statistical forecast but my integer statistical. So once I do that, my statistical forecast now changes from or my the baseline forecast changes from the statistical to integer statistical. So we can define that, and system is going to use that same concept at for all the items in one shot, and it will use integer statistical value, typically used for spare parts companies, because that's where this is primarily required, not so much for other other industry. But in case you have certain use cases, you can use that option as well. You'll have to remember that you'll have to change the default source from settings to from statistical to integer statistical in the override setting option. You can also define it that for these products, these products, you can change it to statistical as well. That option is also available. Now this is 1008 hyphen ax. Now if I would go here, system is not taking integer statistical, it is taking statistical. So that's an option which is available in the system where we can define it. What exactly do we want to have? Do we want to have integer statistical, or do we want to go with statistical forecast at the item level? So a very unique use case, not primarily used by everyone, but this was an option which is available to us all, and I wanted to showcase it to everyone so that you get to see these features, and if it's relevant for your industry, you can use that as well if required. So Forecast Pro is honestly a system which is created for multiple different industries. It's almost implemented in all different types of industry, be it chemical paints, be it apparel, be it footwear, be it consumer goods, any industry that you want to pick and choose, and it's implemented there. So you would have a lot of options available here to be able to use these features for your specific scenarios. If you have any questions here, I'll take a pause and would like to see if there are certain questions.
I have a couple of questions. So first one is where we can enter the uh, rounding value.
Where
Maybe
you
I'm
can
missing it. enter the
Sorry.
rounding value? Where I can enter the rounding value?
So again, in same place in definitions, you can upload the definitions file, and the file is something that I had showcased here. This is how the file would look like. So you have your SQs defined, and after SQs, you can define the integer rounding values, IRQ.
Okay. Then the second question is, can I like you have there is an option to select between forecast and the forecast where we have defined that it should take. If you can go back to the screen.
Yeah.
So we had this option where we can define whether we want statistical forecast or integer statistical. So can this be done at a node level rather than SQ level?
Can it be done at a node level and not at SQ level? No, it is at the last level because my focus essentially is happening at the last level. Let me see. Just give me a
Because
second. Mm-hmm.
in this case, I have to select multiple SKUs. So if, for example, if I want to do for a particular category, so I can just go to mufflers and just select that it should select integer forecast.
What you can do is you can just filter it out. Say for example, mufflers. So only mufflers would be filtered, and then you can just apply the integer statistical for those cases. So you have the
Okay.
option of putting them in the filter and then using that.
Okay. And then third question is when we see the forecast is lower than the rounding value, so it is rounding it off in the last column. So do we have this option where if I want my forecast to be rounded in the first column in integer statistical? So for
See
example,
what?
it is getting, yeah.
Mhm. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
So in this, I can see it is getting aggregated in the second bucket. And
Mm.
if I want to, if I compare it with the supply point of view, the forecast should be in the first bucket. So it's already available when the first demand comes in because demand might or might not come in rounded value.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So see what it happens. What happens that if my forecast, say for example, in this case, my integer rounding value is 50, but if the forecast for the current month is 100, say for example, then it's going to round in the first month itself. Or yeah, ideally that's what it should do. Just one second. I have various options in advanced setting whether I want to do a round up or round down. Let's do a round up.
So Deepak, I guess my first question is, do we have the server available?
Someone has kept their, there's some background noise.
Um, I'm sitting in my office. I'll just.
Oh, okay, okay, no worries, no worries. So I'll keep that in mind. I'll think about it, but I do not think so. What it does, it tries to aggregate the value. So once it aggregate, and it's actually using the stat forecast for aggregating it. So I've just overridden it. But ideally, to answer your question, it would be valid in case the first value for the forecast for the first month is either equal to or say in the range of the IRQ value, integer rounding value. If it is equal to that, then it's going to round in the first month itself.
But apart from that, we don't have any option to get it in the initial month, or maybe uh, like I have used some other software where there is an option where we want it. So if I give a higher value, it's a ratio between 0 to 1. So if I give 1, it will be in the first one or first month. If it's less, something of that sort, it
Mhm.
will be in the initial month, a percentage maybe.
In the first month, right? No, ideally, this integer rounding value, that's not how it works. The essence is that whenever that 50 unit gets completed, that's when it will round the value to that unit. If my forecast in the first month itself is higher, I'm just going back to the same example, but that's how it works. It will not round it in the final, or sorry, it will not round automatically in the first month if my forecast in the first month is less than the, it's not even matching the integer rounding. So see, ideally, it doesn't make sense if my forecast, if I'm expecting a forecast of 1 unit in the first month and have like an integer rounding value of 50 unit. Why would I want to build the inventory in June when it's required in July?
And if it is 40 units,
Then it would do it in the first month itself.
okay, and the rounding value is 50.
Yeah,
So
then it would, yeah.
so it'll, till 25 it will be in the second month, and if the value is higher than 25 it will be in the
Correct,
first month.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, we wanted to keep this session little short itself, and that's the reason we had taken 2 points to cover, which was a very specific use case for a specific companies. In case you have any specific point that you would want us to cover in the second or next session, do let us know, and we'll be happy to add that. In case you have some suggestion now, I'll be happy to hear that, and see if we can take it up in the next session.
I have a question, but it's not related to the topic that we have covered today.
That's okay.
So it's regarding, because I'm new to this forecast flow software. So if I want to introduce PLC product lifecycle in my SKUs. So if there is a phase in, phase out scenario, or phase in basis sales, and so those sort of scenarios are there. So is there any option to do PLC from
Yeah.
forecast flow?
Yeah, we have an option over here where we can do product mapping. And we had covered this in our previous sessions as well, but I can just quickly walk you through. If, for example, I have this product. Now, this product is an old product, and the product after that is a new product, right? We have only 1 month of data. Now, what we are saying that the product life cycle is complete in this, and I'm moving to the next product. So what I can do is I can tell the system to use forecast from an existing data or an existing SKU. So map the history to the new product. And I'm just going to click on commit. And you can see the moment I've selected this product, there's some yellow color graph that has come up. Now this yellow color graph is nothing but the history of mapped history or the proposed forecast history, which it has picked up from the existing product. So I've done a commit, and this is at an item by item level. We can showcase it, or we can use the same method using in one direct upload it through Excel file. We can provide that mapping through the Excel file. Now in this case, system is, even though we have only 1 month of history, but because we had mapped it with an existing item, it is taking the history and the patterns from an existing product and applying it to the new and applying that pattern to the new product. So we have some forecast available here. And for the other item, what we can do is we can discontinue it, or we can define that the product will be discontinued after some time, or set forecast to 0. That's how we can map and maintain the phase out and phase ins in the system.
Couple of questions on this. So, for example, if there is overlapping sales, so for example, my old SKU, my phase out SKU, and the phase in SKU, so there are certain months where the sales has taken place in both the items. So while you using this function of forecast product mapping, it will add up the sales of both the SKUs in the phase and code. Okay.
The new, yeah.
Okay, and then in the phase out code, if I want to don't want to discontinue it immediately, I want to see a declining trend in it. So is there any option related to that?
Yes, there is an option where we can say provide some weights in the Excel file, and let me just show you one example. Yeah, so what we can do is we can create some weights for specific items. And we can define that for, yeah, we can create some scenarios that from, my focus was say, my historical sales was 100%, but say from Feb onward, there would be a declining trend or whatever. So my forecast would be essentially 40% down, 20% down, 10% down. It will only be 10%. So we can provide that phase information. And what we can do is we can go in the system and we can apply the weights. There are options through which we can apply the weights, provided the weights are available. Right now the weights are not available, so it will not allow me to do that option, but if the weights are available, it will automatically show up there. So there would be a phased decline and not straight away discontinuation of the product.
Okay. And then a different case where we are not phasing in and phasing out, introduction of a new product. And there we want to replicate the historicals of any other SKU, or we have a sales target given by marketing that in the first 6 months or first 3 months we'll be selling this number of units, and we want to assign a trend as well in that, that it will be incremental trend. So are those options also available?
Yes, those options are also available. Uh, what you can do is you can use an analogy of method where we can create a pattern that for the next 3 months, the forecast would be say, uh, in a certain way. Let me see if I have that option. Doesn't seem like I have that ready made option, or maybe I do have it. Hang on. If you see any new product, let me know. An example here. Yeah. So what we can do is we can create some scenarios for the new product. It's just opening. Yeah. And we can provide that, hey, this is going to be my launch pattern for next 30 days, where I have initially very high forecast for the first two period or first couple of months. And then slowly the pattern kind of declines and it kind of stabilizes and comes to be around, say, whatever, this unit. So we can define those patterns as well. And this could be direct values, or these could be patterns as well. And we can upload that in the system and use analogy option. Or what we can do is we can say, maybe this was the launch pattern of the previous SKU. And in that case, I can create a helper variable. I would say use the history starting from XYZ month, whatever that month is. You can select that. And now I'm just going to remove the clear mapping. I'm just going to remove it. Click on exit. So now again, I'm back to the same method. I can go to analogy and I'll take the pattern. I'm just taking the pattern, and the level is what something that system can automatically adjust, or we can specify the launch amount, or we can specify what the launch date would be, or and we can align the seasonality, etc. And then we can define that, and automatically system is going to take that pattern and generate the forecast. So there are various ways in which we can determine these launch patterns, and based on that, system would be able to allocate and do the forecasting for.
Okay, thank
I
you.
mean, this is quite a
And
detailed session. What I'll do, I can share those videos with you so that you can refer to them. And for any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
sure, thank you. That will help.
Any other question that you have?
No, that's it.
Okay, all right. Any other question from anyone else? So what I will, okay, in that case, sounds good to me. I will stop sharing my screen. And okay, yeah. And we'll connect next month, or we'll try to keep one session at the end of this month, and we'll take it forward from there. I hope all of you stay well and stay healthy. Let's connect in the next section. Thank you so much, and really appreciate your patience for this call despite the internet issues this time. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Shital. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.
Thanks.
Yeah. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Bye.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.
Thank you, Sheetal. Have a nice day. Bye.